So our return to rye.
Cheers from the Griswold Library.
What we strive to do is create a spirit in whatever category based on a vintage year that you haven't had anything else like. So previously, we just finished up our 2013 bourbon release, which was finished in an Armagnac cask. And this rye, coming in at over 100 proof barrel strength, is, I mean, I hate to be trite about it, but this is not like any rye I've ever nosed before.
No.
The spice, which you pick up predominantly on the nose, has got, you know, I don't even pick up apple per se, which from the Calvados cask, it comes across as a medley of other flavors.
Yeah, a little bit of pear, a little bit of peach. I pick up some apple. Raj, why don't you tell a little bit about the rye story, though? I mean, it's been a while since we've had to go down this road, but what makes rye different from other whiskeys? What makes it so special? Why did you fall in love with it?
You're right, we haven't talked about this for a while, right? Why drink rye, right? What's whiskey, first of all? Whiskey is basically any spirit made from a grain, corn, wheat, rye, in particular, barley. What makes rye really special of the four that I just mentioned, those primary four? Rye has got the biggest spice of it. So think of bread. All the different, let's say you have a white bread, you have a wheat bread, you've got a cornbread, right? And then you've got a rye. Of those four, which has got the most flavor? It's rye. Rye is the standout, most flavorful whiskey grain that you can make a spirit from.
Cold strewn bread as well. Think pumpernickel, think a Russian rye, you know, it's...
big, flavorful
stuff that you don't
breads.
like when you're a kid, but as you grow up, as you get older, as you mature, it's what you really look for. Something with that intensity, with that character, with that kick. You know, the days of vanilla ice cream and white
But the
bread are
nose on this thing, jumping around, the nose on this thing is so remarkable. I mean, it hits so many different nuances, you know? You get some mint.
Yeah, there's like custard there. Creme brulee, vanilla wafers.
Cinnamon.
There's some fruit there, tons of cinnamon. That's the nose, I mean, it's so full of spice. That's what I thought was the most remarkable about this particular rye, Raj, is, you know, on the nose you expect it's going to be an absolute spice bomb that's going to explode on your tongue, which is something I like, but you get it in the palate, and it's creamy, it's balanced, it's well integrated, it's mouth coating. And it strikes the back of the palate as opposed to the tip of the tongue, which is somewhat unexpected given what you pull off the nose. But you know, we got to say a little bit about Calvados too, Raj. This isn't our first rodeo when it comes to that particular spirit. Maybe not everybody watching right now knows too much about it or in your own history with Calvados, so maybe say a bit about that as well.
Calvados is, in our stocks, Bacta is a house of vintages. We release spirits based on vintage dates, which are based on the harvest and the distillation of a particular year, in this case 2013 rye. Within that house of vintages, we have whiskeys, we have our crown jewels in Armagnac, and I call them the crown jewels because they are the crown jewels of the house going back to 1868, each vintage almost since 1868. But Calvados is the unsung hero of the spirits category. It brings to life, like, you know, a whiskey comes out with corn, right, in your hand, or in this case, rye. And if I put a handful of rye in front of you and said, you know, do you want to eat this? And I put a handful of apples in front of you, which one are you going to go for? If you're normal, you're going to take the apples. And it is a very noble fruit. It's a very noble spirit. That used to be America's actually primary drink before it was rye. So it was rum, then Applejack started coming in. They called it Applejack. There was this time of Johnny Appleseed going around the country telling people to plant apples because you could store them for a long time. They were full of vitamins. They tasted great. And then they had these excess apples and they started turning them into spirit. This here comes from the world's preeminent apple growing region, which is in Normandy, France. And
just up from the landing beaches and D-Day, you know, so there's a ton of history that goes along with this as well. I hate to think of ourselves as seasoned industry veterans at this point, but you know, a lot of what we've been
maybe
doing.
we look like it, Leo.
Yeah,
Do we
maybe.
look like it?
I hope not too much. I hope.
Stand more.
Yeah, there we
erect,
go.
that's right.
I
We
suppose.
can't
Yeah,
get all
chin
like
up, right?
old and chin up.
But Kel, I mean, look, my first experience of this stuff was back in the Whistle Pig days with the, you know, the first cask finish that we did on a Boss Hog was in an Armagnac cask, which
And the
really,
second was Calvados,
Yep. So
named after the two first pigs, Mortimer and Mauve.
yeah, so this notion of cask finishing for us was an introduction coming from the whiskey world into this incredible world of French spirits, whether it's Armagnac distilled wine from the southwest of France, or whether it's Calvados, this distilled hard cider from northern France. But what we'd like to do is be able to share that same voyage of discovery that we undertook with the rest of the world. For us, this is a chance to take an amazing 10-and-a-half-year-old rye that we managed to source despite the incredible tightness in the market, put our own stamp on it through a cask finish with incredible Calvados barrels. By the way, Raj, you know, this occurred to me not too long ago. A lot of times when you're doing cask finishes as an American spirits producer, what you're getting are the casks somebody else didn't want. You're getting the stuff that they're throwing away, casks that were defective, casks that were played out, casks that perhaps didn't fit the flavor profile. Not that there's anything necessarily wrong with the casks, but you're generally not getting the cream of the crop. Here at Bacta, we have the casks that hold the best old spirits in the world. So for example, with the bourbon that we just released, literally the day after we had dumped the 1973 vintage out of the barrels that they were aging in, the bourbon whiskey went into those barrels. Those were barrels that had just held a spirit that's widely regarded now as the #1 spirit in the world in terms of that 1973 Armagnac.
Yeah, and
so
what
when we
happens-
finish, we're finishing with the very best barrels that we have in our warehouse, the very best barrels that we can find. We're not using someone else's cask.
And I think we should talk about a little bit what exactly it means to be finished. When you dump a barrel, there's always a little bit left on the bottom. And there is a lot, the cask is very wet. And when you
just in the grain of the wood, in the seams between the staves, the liquid remains.
there's a lot of it basically in a barrel. If you drop a barrel and like were to compositionally analyze it, there's a lot of the juice that it held still in that barrel.
Especially a freshly dumped barrel.
Yep. So when you drop an alcohol into it, a newer alcohol, particularly a higher proof alcohol, it sucks the spirit back out of the wood and kind of exchanges it. So in fact, you know, a barrel finish is, you know, I mean, it's kind of akin to a blend. You get a kiss of that other spirit into
Which is
it.
why people do it.
Which is why you do it, right? So this whole barrel finish concept is spirit is about your new make, it's about the wood that you put into it. And of the two, over time, wood becomes more predominant. And if you can take, well, and let me say something really important here. Really important. There are no two better pairings in the world than rye and Calvados. Why? Why is that? Because rye is very spicy, as we discussed, and Calvados, apple brandy, is very sweet and fruity by comparison. These two come together, and you have a match made in heaven.
Caramel, apple, cinnamon, you know, toasted notes, brioche. I mean,
I think
all
this
there.
green came out really nicely too, didn't it? Looks nice.
Yeah, Raj, one of the things that strikes me in addition about this whiskey worth mentioning, where's the proof clock in? Is it around 107?
Yeah, I think it's 107.
So this is some high proof whiskey creeping up on barrel strength, but you know, a lot of times with something over 100, just on the nose itself, you get an aspect of sort of turpentine or paint thinner, and you know, it's kind of eye-opening and a little bit shocking, and you sort of ask yourself, do I actually want to sip this? But none of that here. 10 years plus in the original oak barrels plus, about 40, 45 days in the Calvados finishing cask. This thing is nothing but mellow on the nose. And furthermore, once you get it on the palate and on the finish, there's no burn, there's no excess heat, just almost a hint of warmth, not even the warmth that you would expect from a well-aged 10-plus-year-old. All you get is flavor. And then, but where that high proof, I think, manifests itself is on a super long finish. After you take a sip of this stuff, you're still getting waves of flavor, almost a minute plus after the sip.
All right.
Pretty remarkable.